you get what you need today. Visitors may find a blue card in the seat pocket in front of you. I'm not sure if I have a blue one here, but if somebody can kind of hold that up to show them, that'd be great. Visitors, if you could fill that out and leave it at the front table before you leave, this will help us keep in touch with you and help you be more connected with us. We look forward to getting to know you, and we welcome you all. I'll be standing just outside following the service and would love it if you came and said hi. You're also invited to stick around for some coffee and cookies after the service so others can say hi too. We'll know you by your yellow name tag. I'd like to amplify some important events in our unfolding lives together in this sacred community. First, our upcoming Tailgate Rummage Sale Stewardship event is on Saturday, October 23rd, next Saturday from 9 to 1. There are limited cellar parking spots, so please sign up on the sheet posted on the bulletin board out here in the hallway before those spaces run out. Volunteers who want to help can sign up there too. This is a very cool way of doing a rummage sale, a fun way to safely spend time with each other, perhaps meet some new people, get rid of some stuff you don't need anymore, and support the work of the church. I'll be there to help and hope you will too. Throughout October, we'll be collecting food for the Golden Harvest Food Bank. Please consider donating non-perishables in the collection bins throughout the building. There's one just outside the sanctuary doors here. You can check out the most recent e-announcement for more info. You're invited to dress in a costume for our service on October 31st, 2 weeks from now, to celebrate Samhain and Halloween. I'll be dressed as some kind of TBD pun. We're still looking for a paid nursery worker to help give the youngest among us a dedicated place of their own during each service if needed. If you have any leads, please contact President-elect Marcia Wurst. Similarly, help is needed in the nursery and the elementary faith formation class each week on Sunday mornings. Serving the spiritual needs of children is important and integral, but if we don't have adults to facilitate that work, we can't do it. If you have an interest in serving our kids' spiritual development, please speak with Reverend Kim. Social Justice Committee is now a team that works directly with me and is already doing some cool work promoting justice in the community. Feel free to join us at our next meeting at 12:30 after next week's worship service. And stay tuned as we keep everyone updated on important events in town at which we can make our voices heard in solidarity with folks whose voices often go unheard. I'll personally be attending some of the redistricting meetings here in Richmond County over the next few weeks. Finally, Google has essentially become the modern storefront for businesses and organizations. Since their algorithms benefit organization pages that have frequent activity, both from us and from the outside, it would be doubly helpful for folks to get to know us better if we had more reviews. I invite each of you to take a moment this week, if you'd like, and tell the world what you love about this faith community on Google so we might promote our work together more effectively. Now, let us move into this time of worship, this time of shaping that which has worth together.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Palmer, and I am the worship host this morning. Our chalice lighting words this morning are a quote from Eboo Patel. I believe every inch of America is sacred, from sea to shining sea. I believe we make it holy by who we are and by how we relate to each other. Call my Muslim eyes to the American project. We make you different nations and tribes that you may come to know one another, which is a quote from the Quran.
Our opening hymn is 188. Now's a chance for us to sing together, and I get to do my song in the end, which I love above all else. Reverend Nick, why don't you turn your mic off or use mic? Why don't you sit behind this pack?
Okay.
Great to see you. Don't let the masks happen. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leading. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, one more time. Come, wherever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Now, this text comes from a poem by Rumi, the great 13th century Persian poet. Yet in this hymnal, an important line of the poem is left out, and that line is, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. So it's important to understand about the connection. So listen to this. Even if you have broken your vows, even if you have broken your vows, sing that with me. Even if you have broken your vows, even if you have broken your vows, even if you have broken, it's a meditation. Even if you have broken your vows. Tell you what, let's have this side. You guys can be my even though you've broken your vows, right? And then I'll bring you in on come, come. And it's going to fit together like magic. Yeah, right? Even if you have broken your vows, even if you have broken your vows, we go, even if you, let's go quiet, broken your vows, even if you have broken your vows, come, come, wherever you are, wander, worship, lover of leaving, Jesus is no broken your vows, even if you have broken your vows, even if you, wherever you are, wander, worship, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come.
Now is the time in our service when we invite those who have had joys or sorrows recently come into our lives to come and share them with the rest of us if you would like. I'll take a moment to say that since these are personal comments, they are not being recorded. If you have something you would like to share, please come and
Didn't end up fitting quite as well as I hoped this morning, so I'm throwing an audible. I'd like to have a short chat with the kids sitting where they are while we still practice social distancing before they head to their faith formation classes. At this morning, kids, we are continuing this month's ongoing consideration of cultivating relationship. Those are some big words, but what it really means is of learning how to love and respect each other more. How might we show some love to folks that we may not know that well? Do any of us have any ideas? And if anybody who is older than a kid's age but still identifies as a child, you can answer too. How might we? Yes. Oh, what's the other thing that you said? Say it again. Oh, you have a birthday party coming up. Thanks for sharing that. I think birthday parties are a great way to show people that you love them. Anybody else have any other ideas? Yeah. Oh, that's a lovely idea. If you can, you'll give everybody a card on Valentine's Day. I think that's a lovely way to show people that you love and respect them. That was always one of my favorite rituals in school, is giving everyone a Valentine's Day card on Valentine's Day. Well, today we're specifically focusing on relationships with people in another religion beyond Unitarian Universalism. The people of Islam. People who call themselves Muslim. Does anybody here know somebody who identifies as Muslim? Okay, all right. That's excellent. What about any of our kids or youth? Do you know anybody who calls himself Muslim? And it's okay if you do? Awesome. Do you know you know what their name is? What's their name? Say again, one more time. Oh, okay. All right. Well, you can't remember their name. That's okay. That's all right. It's sometimes names. I actually have trouble with remembering names myself, especially if they're not names I know well. Do you know anything about them as an individual? What do you know about them? What are they like? They're nice? Okay, cool. Well, since it seems like, at least with our kids, we don't know that many Muslim people, but I'm impressed that we know quite a few within the congregation. It still may be kind of easy to make assumptions about Muslim folks based on what you hear on the news or from friends or even from teachers or parents. And assuming things about somebody because of their culture, their religion, usually isn't a good thing. To help us avoid that trap, let me ask the children here about people you may know better. For the kids here, who do you know here at this church who is exactly like you? You know somebody who's exactly like you? Oh, that's a great answer. You have a friend who's kind of like you, but there's some differences, right? That's a great answer. What about the other two? Do you know anybody here or in your schools that are exactly like you? Kind of. That's another great answer. So they're going to be at least little very. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, you look similar to somebody in. Mm-hmm. You're really alike, but there are some differences, right? You know the differences. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's good to know that there are people who may be very similar to us in the way that we perhaps look or the way we act or the things we like, but they're not going to be exactly the same. But now that I think that we've determined that everybody here is and your school is unique, at least in some ways, and particular in their own beautiful ways, I have one more question before we send you to your faith formation classes this morning. Do you think that all Muslims are the same? It looks like we have. What about everyone else here? No. That is the right answer. And I'm going to let you think about that a little bit more on your way out as David plays you to your classes this morning.
As you go, may joy surround you. As you go,
Now and
No, our love is with you always as you go.
So now is the time in our service where we take a moment to reconnect with our bodies, with our breath, with this moment. Feel the energy of the people around you here in the space, and recognize that this community is one that holds you in all of your moments of your life. As we speak directly to the energy, the life force, the spirit that connects us all in interdependence. Blessed Spirit of life and love, mystery of existence, ever becoming universe, thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for the chance here to be with one another on this crisp, cool morning. Thank you for all the chances that we have to just be with one another and become with one another. And not only with the people in this room, with the people who are also doing great work out in the world for justice and peace and love. People right here in our midst of the Augusta area, the Augusta region. People who identify as Muslim. Thank you for their presence in our lives. But I ask that the spirit among us and the love among us to keep an eye on how we relate with folks who aren't necessarily that similar to us, especially as folks who are Muslim around the world experience joys and sorrows just like us. Just this past couple of weeks, there have been not one but 2 bombings in Shiite temples in the Middle East that have killed far too many people. Even one is too many, especially when those folks, just like us, are spending time at their place of worship, their religious homes. There should be no fear to enter those spaces. May we keep all those who are suffering and who are grieving this morning in our hearts, including the folks sitting next to us. And may we remember that we are a part of a larger world and that there is both joy and grief in every body. Joy and grief that in some way or another we share in this interdependent web of existence. Blessed be.
I found these words by John Saxon, and I was very inspired by them, and I'd like to share them with you now. A fire exists by burning. This religious community exists by its mission, as a fire exists by burning. But a fire cannot burn without fuel. And it is the time, the energy, the imagination, the vision, the creativity, the compassion, the love, and the financial support of its members and friends of this community that fuels our mission to nurture and sustain a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse liberal religious community that transforms lives and serves the world. Your support, the free and generous support of each and every member and friend of this community, is what fuels this community and its mission. And without your support, the flame of justice, community, and love cannot burn brightly to warm ourselves and be a beacon in a world threatened by diversion and fear. Will the ushers please come forward?
Before we start, I want to share with you something that happened this morning. A homeless man walked up to me while I was outside greeting him, gave me $1, said he wanted to make a contribution to this organization because it seemed to mean something to him. This probably is 10% of the entire wealth that this guy had. So think about that as you support this congregation.
Thank you, Andy, for sharing that story. And I'll repeat it so the folks on Zoom can hear it too. I think it's important for them to hear. This morning, an unsheltered man walked up and gave Andy $1 to contribute to the offering this morning. And Andy named that's likely at least 10% of his entire wealth. And I think that's a really wonderful story to share. I appreciate that. And I also appreciated during the silence portion of our meditation the bird song that was happening just outside our window. So these moments of ad-libbed offerings to the creation of today's worship, I appreciate at least. When I was planning this month's sermons around the topic of cultivating relationship and saw that Mawlid al Nabi, the Prophet Muhammad's birthday, was tomorrow, I felt like this would be a good time to cultivate our relationship with people in the huge religion of Islam that has about 1.8 billion followers worldwide, if even a little bit. We can't form real personal relationships with every one of those nearly 2 billion people. And if you think you have a relationship with them all or know them all, because you have a relationship with one or even a few, you're probably falling into the pretty serious trap of thinking every Muslim person is exactly the same. And as you've already shared with me this morning, that just isn't the case. And so you're probably creating a Muslim monolith in your mind if you do think that every Muslim person is exactly the same. And that's dangerous. It's harmful. To avoid that for today, I reached out to a couple of my new local Muslim colleagues from the Interfaith Fellowship of Augusta to get their personal perspective on the importance of Mawlid al Nabi in their own lives, not some universal understanding of it. They generously agreed and sent me their reflections last week. Not surprising, but they were as much different as they were alike. And the contexts from which their unique Islamic identities emerged are different too. Just like the fact that no two UUs are the same, no two Muslims are the same. In addition to learning about Islam from a variety of perspectives as an act of preserving the particularity of each Islamic person, just the act of hearing personal stories from two of my new colleagues was an act of relationship building itself. I genuinely wanted to hear about them and their relationship to the birth of their prophet Muhammad. But asking for this kind of gift, to learn about something so important to them and their lives and culture, also includes potential danger. As we discussed a few weeks ago in my sermon celebrating reciprocal relationship with all of nature and her individual sacred elements, I can't ask for something without offering a gift in return. I can't just take from their culture like, some kind of colonizer. There must be reciprocity. So, although I had already given a 20-minute presentation about Unitarian Universalism to the Interfaith Fellowship a week prior, which they both attended, along with my request, I made sure they knew your time and experience is valuable to me, and I don't expect this for free. I was practicing reciprocal relationship cultivation in my effort to explore reciprocal relationship cultivation. Actions, after all, are more powerful than words. I think it's important that we give a little historical context to the birth of the Prophet Muhammad to better make meaning of his life and work within our own lives and to better understand his importance to Muslims around the world. Throughout this reflection, I'm going to be in dialogue with the two reflection gifts I received from Aladdin Fadel and Aza El Remesi, and with a few other sources that are available to everyone, so that I'm doing some of my own work and not completely relying on folks from an often oppressed culture to teach me. Who was the Prophet Muhammad and why does his life matter? I'm a huge fan of the book No God But God by Reza Aslan. Does anybody know that book? It's a wonderful resource. I check it out. He offers a tremendously contextualized and scrupulously researched account of Islam from its beginnings to now, adding so much historical context along the way. According to Aslan, leading up to when Muhammad was born, the economy in Mecca, where Muhammad was born and located in modern Saudi Arabia, had moved from a tribal social egalitarianism ideal to a kind of a capitalistic wealth being concentrated in the hands of a few ideal. It moved from a social support system to an individualistic system. And, unsurprisingly, it caused a great deal of suffering and oppression and eventually slavery. Al-Din supports this, saying of Muhammad, he was sad about all sorts of injustice around him. Muhammad's early life was filled with loss. Azza el-Remesi told me, quote, how he suffers loss of father, never saw him, then later loss of his mom, grandfather, and how that shaped his personality and manners toward building a family and enjoying warmth of love and support. How his loss made taking care of orphans and unfortunate or less privileged people is why those values are a high priority for practicing Muslims. Knowing a person's lived stories always helps in relationship cultivation. After losing his parents, Muhammad was financially supported by his uncle, an influential religious leader with decent wealth. Yet by the time he was 25, which is pretty old in this context, the 7th century, Muhammad had no capital or business of his own, was unmarried, and was completely dependent on his wealthy uncle to support him. He was nonetheless admired and seen as a merchant with integrity and honesty. He earned people's trust well. Earning folks' trust is a great way to build relationship with them. Say what you mean and do what you say, and healthy, fruitful relationship will follow. One person's trust he earned was his eventual wife, a wealthy 40-year-old widow named Khadijah. It was her financial and communal support that truly paved the way for Muhammad's liberative and prophetic message to emerge by giving him financial security and what we might call middle-class status in his socio-economic system. Muhammad's ability to cultivate healthy relationship was at the heart of his prophetic success. Azza el-Remesi told me, quote, Prophet Muhammad is a role model for Muslims. To ponder on his life and reflect on how he faced everyday life challenges, family loss, marriage, raising children, from being a religious leader to a state leader, warrior, a husband, and grandfather is an important thing for us to think about. Though he was financially secure himself and benefited from his socioeconomic status, he nevertheless was conflicted about his own dual status in society. He both came from kind of an orphan context, but moved into one where he was fairly comfortable. His financial stability allowed him to spend a great deal of time in solitary contemplation on this internal struggle and his sadness about the oppressive state of his society. According to Aslan, it was during this contemplation one night in 610 in the Common Era in which he, quote, had an encounter that would change the world. He sat alone in a cave, deep in meditation. Suddenly, an invisible presence crushed him in its embrace. He struggled to break free, but could not move. The pressure in his chest increased until he could no longer breathe. He felt like he was dying. As he surrendered his final breath, light and a terrifying voice washed over him like the break of dawn. Recite, the voice commanded. Recite in the name of your Lord who created humanity from a clot of blood. Recite, for your Lord is the most generous one who has taught by pen, taught humanity that which it did not know. That last bit came directly from the Quran, 96, 1-5. Muhammad spent the next 23 years reciting the Quran. Quran literally means the recitation. Whether you believe Muhammad had an encounter with God doesn't matter so much for us today. He believed he did, and Muslims believe he did, and he actually struggled with telling people about the experience because he didn't want to be perceived as insane. It's not our place to question that belief and his experience. And nevertheless, his experience was world-changing. Aladdin says, quote, his message transformed his tribal society into a nation in which all its members treating each other as brothers and sisters. There are no more barriers or intermediaries between each one and God. More importantly, his message was to remind humanity that God has created us for a purpose, and our life on earth is only a stage in God's master plan. We should pursue happiness in this world, but we should not forget that it will end, and what that we will leave behind is our contribution to humanity. End quote. All right. We know a very small amount more about Muhammad's life, work, and historical context. How do Muslim folks celebrate his birth or not? Is it similar to the way other religious icons' births are celebrated? For example, Christ's birth at Christmas. According to Birthday of the Prophet Mawlid al Nabi from Harvard University's The Pluralism Project, a great project that is available to everyone, quote, across the globe, including in the United States, Mawlid al Nabi, the birthday of the Prophet Muhammad, is celebrated on the 12th day of the month Rabi al Awal. Celebrations include festivals, prayer services, recitations of poetry and litanies, as well as religious gatherings. Celebrations of the Mawlid in America and distinctly English forms of poetry, songs, and literature shows the increasing importance of Mawlid al Nabi amongst American Muslims. End quote. Aza el-Remesi gave me a little background on herself so I might understand more fully that her appreciation and celebration of Mawlid al Nabi and that it's unique to herself and her family. She says, quote, I am born and raised in Egypt for a middle-class Muslim family. I came to the U.S. when I was about 27 to study for my PhD here at Medical College of Georgia. Egypt is different than any other Muslim-majority country that you might compare to. We are different than Saudi or Iran. All Muslims around the world recognize the birth of Prophet Muhammad and celebrate it in different ways. However, none of these celebrations would amount or even compare to a celebration of Jesus' birth or Christmas in general. In Egypt, growing up as kids, we would wait for holidays as they mean great food, special candy or treats available only during that particular holiday, family gatherings, school break, and days off for grown-ups. Aladdin is a little more cautious with his relationship to the Prophet's birth, saying, quote, we love Prophet Muhammad dearly, but he advised us always not to do the mistakes of previous people, making prophets as reverend as gods. We celebrate his message and appreciate his life devoted to spread the guidance he received from God, end quote. This reminds me of the way early Unitarians appreciated, loved, even followed Jesus' liberating message, but did not put him on the same level as God. The article from the Pluralism Project further complexifies the different relationships Muslims from around the world have with this holy day tomorrow. Quote, in some countries, such as Pakistan, the entire month of Rabi al Awal is observed as the Prophet's birth month. In Singapore, the observance of Mawlid al Nabi is a one-day festival which often includes special birthday parties for poor children and orphans, in addition to the regular prayers and lectures in local mosques. Azhar Square in Cairo is the site of one of the largest celebrations with over 2 million Muslims in attendance. The whole point here is to show that to truly respect others and their differing worldviews and cultures, it's incumbent upon us to realize that we cannot make assumptions about them because of those cultures. Since we're a month beyond the 20th anniversary of 9/11, in which we're telling some old stories, perhaps, in society and in our heads about what it means to be a Muslim, it feels like a good time to complexify and enrich the relationships we have with Islam and the people who comprise Islam. It feels like a good time to remember that casting a generality over all people within one religion or culture is dangerous, especially when those generalities have been used as ammo to amplify oppression of those people for a very long time, going back centuries to the Christian Crusades. Yes, I think we can critique certain behaviors in some of the Muslim systems around the world, particularly the brutal way that women are treated by some Muslim men. We can critique fundamentalist behavior in Islam, just like we can in any other religion, including ours. As many people celebrate the birth of the Prophet in their unique ways, or not, may this occasion remind us that a new story can also be born in us about what it means to be a Muslim at any time. A story that is unique, subjective, and beautifully complex, just like each person of Islam.
Closing hymn is Alhamdulillah, number 180. Alhamdulillah means Alleluia in Arabic. I think we shall sing it 3 times. Let's sing it louder each time.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. 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 Today's benediction and words to extinguish the chalice are by Reverend Eric Williams, entitled, May You Be Filled. May you be filled with the blessings of this covenanted community. May you carry them with you as you depart from here. May you discover the places in the world where these blessings are needed. May you have the courage to share them. And may there be an open place within you to receive the blessings of the people whom you will meet along the way.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, lies in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life. justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come